the name of the game? From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame? Our strength in numbers is a roll of the dice. Played 1,000 hours and I think that I died just once, or maybe twice. I live in dungeons, dungeons, always here. I live in dungeons, dungeons, like
Alrighty, good evening. Welcome to Nycos. I am Jonathan Albin, Game Market Guru, Game Master J, or just Hey Jonathan. We are here live in Nycos RPG at the current Ponderosa, and we are live talking tonight about, or continuing our conversation about the fun of role-playing games. And tonight we're going to talk about what elements of Nycos RPG can be compared to the elements of other classic role-play games, and it kind of compare and contrast. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about the upcoming launch of Nycos RPG, finally as a real available product for retailers and for consumers, and the different ways we might go about getting this property out to you, and to sort of brainstorm within our community what we would like to see done and like how we would want to see this goal achieved. So let's switch over to our main page and get serious about this, all right, shall we? Alrighty. So, what to do with Nycos RPG? For clarity, let's discuss what we have to work with, what we propose to do, and what options we might take along the way. First off, Nycos RPG has been in the works for a fairly long time, and we went ahead and published our initial version of Dark Shards and put it into publication, and it had very short legs because we literally had a distribution channel of one game store. And while it has done modestly well, they keep selling out of it, but the rate at which they sell it is really not staggering or mind-bending. And so it's lackluster sales I can only attribute to the fact that I'm not running more sessions. Because predominantly every session that I host generally has at least 2 or 3 players that purchase books. So if I was running 30 or 40 sessions a week, that would be a couple hundred books a week. So, well, potentially 100 books a week, and that would be, I suppose you might say, sustainable, but we're not reaching the kind of turnover numbers that we need. So, with that, of course, concepts that come to mind are standard distribution, which I'll go into in more detail, non-standard distribution, which is direct to retail, and the third option, of course, is to utilize the growingly popular and arguably growingly annoying Kickstarter programs. And the real challenge with Kickstarter is that it tends to be a relatively tight initial sales group. It tends to stay intrinsic in terms of the personalities that buy into the Kickstarter, tend to be very dedicated to it for the length of the campaign, and then of course they move on to the next Kickstarter program, and you've gotten your 1.2 sales or whatever from it, and then you're stuck with whatever inventory and very little ways to move it, because the distribution channel is it abhors the Kickstarter process because it sees it as a vacuum. In other words, the consumers that purchase into the Kickstarter are literally all of the consumers that would be purchasing your product, because the individuals that purchase it are satisfied. They've received the product for which they invested, and that's it. There's not a secondary push into retail because the properties generally saturate what marketplace the manufacturer brought to the table. So that's problematic, and we want to reach a bigger audience than that, and so we instead want to endeavor to work with the either distribution 1 or distribution 2 we talked about. So in the case of standard distribution, you have to produce a product that the distributors can look at, touch, handle. So you're building your prototype as a fundamentally ready to go to market property. There's little ways to fine tune it on the way out the door, so to speak, because the distributors have to have it in their hand as if they were going to retail it, because that's how they do their market research, is they simply take it to one retailer or 10 or 50 and say, this is what we've got to work with, this is something you can sell. And generally, if it's a really together product and you've been able to fine tune it and you've got it in the saleable marketing material form and whatever, then they will pre-order however many that the retailers say that they would be able to pass through their through their retail locations. And that single first sale is the first that they do, and then if the product picks up any kind of legs from the retailers, then the retailers then order what they want in addition, and therefore as long as they have inventory in stock, those distributors will fulfill until such time as they saturate the market, run out of product, or are offered a new product that they can bundle to cause the last of their inventory to disappear. So that process therefore builds up so that once you're up and operational in the distribution chain, then every new product you come up with can be picked up as well, because they've already got an established desire, established marketplace, and then their salespeople will do the fundamental job of selling, because now they have a specifically recognizable soft target. The reality is that distribution is a soft sell market. They are not in the business of getting new client for any given product, but instead to fulfill the clients that they have with the product that they want. So it's kind of a push me pull you. Now the secondary train would be to, or sort of short circuit the distribution network and try to sell direct to retail. And while this may sound kind of attractive, it's a lot more dangerous, because you're actually having to deal with that many more consumers that are buying product in smaller volume. Therefore you're not able to drop ship. You're actually having to pick specific product out, put it in particular packaging, and send it to the target consuming retailer. That means your order size is smaller, the risk of that order not being received, the risk of that product being damaged, the risk of that product getting lost, etc., radically increases over time, and the number of retailers that you work with compounds that. So when we are looking at what we're going to do with Nycos RPG, really then we have to make sure that the product itself is got a high demand from the consumer, which means we are going to be looking at either a discounted or even a free version of the rules, so that people can quick play and begin to interact with the game well in advance of their first order and try to build some groundswell that way. Or we've got to fundamentally bribe retailers by providing them with the product in its real form and advocating for them to put a game master behind it in their local community, and hope that that game master can run an adequate game to draw the appeal for the players for the product. All of these sound like an insurmountable problem, but the real benefit here is, as we started to talk about earlier, the fun of Nycos RPG. The mechanisms of the game are such a appealing alternative to what is already out there. The appeal of the game is itself, or I believe, will be strong enough to support the sales that we want to get. So then the question becomes, how do we do this? What's our best approach? And as a person who worked with both Gamma and Konami, it is a sticky wicket to walk the line between standard distribution and direct-to-retail distribution, because you can alienate your distributors every bit as much when selling to the retailers that they service as you would selling through a Kickstarter program or whatever to an isolated audience. In either case, you're cutting off potential sales that the distributors would want to pick up for their small share of the property. So I guess I'm appealing at this point for those that are interested in helping me get Nycos RPG into consumers' hands. If you are a game master and you already run role-playing games and are interested in looking at an alternative role-playing system, particularly if you are running paid event already, you're already in the professional game master realm, I would ask you to send me a PM. Let's coordinate and see what we can do. I can provide you with materials to help this grow. If you are a consumer and you've only heard of Nycos RPG and haven't had an opportunity to play, we have several ways we can incorporate you into game sessions, such as I already have several game masters across the country who have said that they would run games for me if we had groups that were pulled together, so we may want to coordinate that as well. And of course, I run live stream games for my Patreon followers, so if you like what you're seeing within the Nycos mechanism and you want to give it a shot, message me either through the chat here, through the comment section, or through a direct message, and I'll endeavor to coordinate for you to be provided access to the way to play with us on Discord. So I do want to spend some time talking about the aspects of Nycos RPG in juxtaposition to other role-playing systems, but I'm kind of hesitant to do so because every player, and I've said this dozens of times, players come to play role-playing games for their very own reasons, and every storyteller has to wrestle with what that means for their groups. And the concepts that we advocate for in Nycos RPG are in the realm of theater of the mind. Now, certainly we can play miniatures games. We could go ahead and put tokens on the board and move them appropriately to give a visual for what's going on in the action. But from my standpoint, what that seems to do, instead of enhancing the play mechanism, it undermines what's possible, because the players begin to think that what is represented is the only way to interpret the facts of the encounter. And to me, that feels like kind of a slight to the imaginative quality of the persona who are in the scene. And so when we look at, therefore, playing a role-play game in the theater of the mind element, we're playing even with the fuzzy descriptions of the scene in terms of what each player's perspective and perception of the scene are, and trying to cause those to coincide with those of the storyteller and the other players. So when we talk about the fluidity of the scene and the dynamics of the scene, it's a far simpler thing to do when there isn't a specific distance between persona A and persona B. We might be nearer or farther at any given moment, and therefore the action that occurs might become possible even if the visuals of the miniatures don't seem to represent a possibility. So sometimes I feel like I'm pontificating. I might be doing it again, but the point I'm trying to say is that when you are in a game that occurs in the mind of the players, it's the minds of the players that are the playing field, and they are therefore malleable and adaptable and adjustable to make the scene make sense on the fly, because the player and the game master and whatever NPCs are in the scene are all amorphous and indistinct, and therefore they can be perceptibly adjusted within the scene to make actions make sense, which is, I believe, part of what makes the excitement of the game far more dynamic. Now, as it is a Tuesday night, and we have talked about that part, and we've also talked about the potential for the Nycos Kickstarter, I do want to take a time and say thank you for participating in this video, and if you like what you see, make sure you follow us here on Twitch, and give us a comment or two to let us know how much you appreciate us, because we're trying to get the word out about the property. I'm feeling a bit rushed tonight, so I think I'm going to be actually ending the video early. And if you have any comments or concepts, please let us know. If you are interested in the property, of course, check out nycosrpg.com or nycosrpg.info for lore about the campaign. And if you are interested in supporting us and becoming a part of the Patreon program and our potential Kickstarter coming up later this year, check out patreon.com/Nycos. Thank you again. This is Jonathan Albin for Nycos RPG. We'll see you next time.
Absorbing damage is the name of the game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball.